Hello and welcome to Handy Point. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad. This is Zero Hanger's brand spanking new footy podcast. Every week, we're going to be talking about everything happening in AFL and beyond. So today, we are kicking off with the two games that are happening in opening round. Obviously, there's some sort of reason why the other two aren't happening. We're also going through preseason form of some teams. We're talking about Luke Jackson, and we make all of our season previews, our big predictions for this year. A lot of mine get shot down. I don't really understand why, but massive episode. Let's get to it. All right, and joining us for the first episode of Handy Point. So as always, Mitch Keating, Chief AFL Editor. Hello, mate.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
That's good. I'm excited. First out.
Yeah.
Kicking it off. Footy's a couple of days away.
Yep. We also have Mr. Aidan Cellini.
I've definitely missed that accent, Phoenix, but yeah, stoked to be here.
have not
be
missed
good.
You've never heard it.
Definitely
Okay. All right. And making his Zero Hanger YouTube channel debut, Callum Farquhar. Hello, mate. Welcome.
Thanks. How you going? Good to be here.
Good golf class.
You deserve a clap. How long have you been working with Zero Hanger, mate?
About a year now. Been doing some interning and stuff. Good to be on board now, and yeah, looking forward to the potty.
Hell yeah. That's it. So any aspiring AFL journalists, writers, whatever you want to call yourself, join the Zero Hanger internship and you'll find yourself on the pod.
Done.
All right. So this podcast starts with a rundown. First thing on the rundown, Cats versus Lions. What is happening, Mitchell?
Well, it's got pushed back, which is obviously frustrating. Looking forward to Thursday night. First game of the season. Don't know when it's going to be. Round 3 makes sense. But also just makes sense to move it. I think some people questioning why initially. But
Why is it getting moved?
Cyclone.
Named Alfred, by the way.
No, but I think, and even with the Suns Bombers game getting moved, people are kind of figuring out why it can't be played this weekend elsewhere. But you got to also figure out, getting a venue sorted. I don't think Marvel or MCG are available for Vic games. Get in your puck maybe. But then you also got to fly people out of Queensland when their families are also dealing with everything that's going on. So
and that would have changed to his home game and what's right.
Yeah, so logistically, we'll probably have Geelong and Brisbane playing round 3. Again, at the time we're recording, nothing's been locked in. But then it's the Essendon Suns one, which is a bit tricky because they don't have the same buys later in the year. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it was a no-brainer, I think, for me. By all reports, this cyclone named Alfred seems to be potentially doing some damage. People sandbagging their houses and whatnot, getting prepared for the worst, which is obviously terrible to see for those in Queensland and northern New South Wales. But in terms of from a footy perspective, yeah, it's again, as I said, a no-brainer to be moved. Again, not everything's about footy, although we'd love the season to start. We still do have 2 games that we'll touch on a little bit, but yeah, again, it's just had to be done.
Doesn't even feel like the start of the season though. But
It's come around quick. Like pre-season's obviously out. Do you reckon they could use the pre-finals bye? Like if they had one game, like it's probably not a bad thing to rely on eventually.
Yeah.
Like later in the season if something like this happened. But do you just want like 2 clubs playing off?
I've got a solution. So this is opening round, right?
Yeah.
So keep it as opening round, and then you play rounds 1 to 24.
I can,
and then you have,
I can never remember how many.
and then you have opening round 2 at the end of the season.
The closing. So is that
opening round 2,
the closing.
Closing round,
Electric Boogaloo.
and that's it. That's what you got to close. You close out with opening round because I think the AFL should have more opening rounds. That's what everybody's asking for. Everybody loves opening rounds so much that they should add a second one.
Well, for Andrew Dillon, if you're listening to this, solution right here.
Right, so, I'm an ideas guy.
He said he was looking forward to the first episode, so this is listening.
Cool. All right, so that's it. Cats versus Lion, game postponed. And then
stay tuned for more details.
Yeah, it kind of makes the start of the season not as exciting. All right, next thing though, let's get to actual footy. First game, Sydney versus Hawks. Callum, you have confessed that you are a Hawkball man.
That is correct.
Where do you want to start with this one?
Oh, I think it's going to be a great game. I think you got the Hawks coming off a ripper campaign. They've got all the expectations upon them now, which will be interesting to see how, I guess, they develop from last year, if they can live up to the weight of expectations that are now upon them. And then you've got the Swans, who are coming off that really tough grand final exit. They've got a new coach now. There's the lingering question about Chad Warner and his future. So how does that impact him potentially? And I guess how does the team go after such a disappointing finish last year? So it'll be a really interesting contest to start off with.
Where do you have the Hawks finishing this year, roughly? You got top 4?
I've got us. Oh, say us. I should probably say.
No, you can that's fine. There's a little bit of
They'll
degree
go
to
for
that.
someone.
Good to be honest.
I got the Hawks finishing probably top 4 this year. I think the additions of Tom Barras and Josh Bale are a bit too hard to overlook. I think they've got a solid list build. Some people think maybe they overachieved with the talent on their list, but I think when you get better with 2 experienced players, I can only see them improving this year. I don't see how they could potentially fall off. But that's just my personal view on that.
Yeah, you'd be up there. I think I had the Swans. I'll have the Swans higher. And if I'm picking a list between the 2, I'd probably take the Swans. But yeah, top 4 is definitely not out of the question.
You got to hire them both.
Yeah, I'll take Sydney ahead of Hawthorn this year. And if I was picking a list, I'd probably still take the Swans. Friday night, yeah, I'll probably tip the Swans. We'll get into tips a little bit later anyway. But yeah, certainly can't complain with the Hawks. Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be a side that had last year as an outlier when you mentioned the ins they had and the youth. Like St Kilda a couple of years ago were quite a young side, but they didn't add to their list that was going to give them that jump start again. So yeah, I think top 4 is not out of the question. I think I might have you 5th overall if I was doing a ladder, but yes, I'm still taking Sydney.
So no chance of a plateau from the Hawks. That's what we're suggesting, are we?
Probably not dropping back out. They could stay around. They could reach another semi. They could win a final. They could easily lose the first final. And you can't rule them out not making it altogether, but I'd be surprised.
No, I think they're definitely going to be around the mark. I think just the wave of emotion they were on last year, and not a lot of teams put probably enough time into them. Now they've been established as, probably 2nd or 3rd flag favourite. And I think still people forget that they're quite young. They're expecting Will Day to be, although I think he will be a star, the next Marcus Bontempelli. But again, I think he's only 23 or 24 years of age. They've still got a lot of young guys on their list that have shown really good signs, but also, they're relying on them as well to continue to develop linearly, which is obviously sometimes isn't the case in AFL footy. So I've got them probably sneaking into the 8, but yeah, I think the Swans.
I've got both Sydney and Hawthorn dropping out of the 8.
Oh my God. You're full of text. First step.
Yeah, but I reckon Aidan's got a point. I reckon most teams now are prepared for Hawthorn, and I think they're just too young to keep that momentum going like a second year.
So what I reckon with the Hawks is, because when young lists usually fade as the season, because it gets really tiring and taxing on younger players, but they started slow and then were good and finished strong. So if they can get that start right and still have the energy at the end of the year, then I reckon that's a home final finish.
A short break though for both of them too.
Yeah, that's
if they're young, does that matter? Because
it's just then you're relying on depth. So there's just about everything. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but it sounds like you have Sydney out of the 8.
Yep. There's no reason. It's just a vibe. Look, you guys are writers. You guys are AFL writers.
You are a vibes
I'm a
guy.
fan. I'm a vibes guy. I did not go to university to study sports journalism, but my vibe is that Dean Cox is going to bring in a lot of change.
Yeah.
And they're just gonna slip out. It's a very competitive year. My vibe is that they're out.
I can't remember what we were talking about last time on ZHTV, but I didn't like the idea of the McCartan as a forward, and God, he looked good the other night.
Yeah.
So if that works, I still don't know who's going to lead that back line, like Lewis Malikan or Joel Hamlin.
Dane Rampy.
Like that's going to be it's going to be tough when they're coming up against a side like the Dogs if they've got all 3 of their forwards. But look, if McCartan's good forward and they know they can swing him back, it's could be something they unlock that's quite nice. So I might have to change my tune on Tom McCartan as a forward if he keeps up what he did over the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, well, I guess we should do do we want to go to the GWS versus Pies or go to the tips first for this game?
We can go a quick touch on them. A few big names out. I had GWS winning despite losing Stringer and Hogan and having about 8 other players injured. Tom Green, another one, and suspended. I think they'll come out red hot. I think Adam Kingsley will be able to light that fire pretty well. And there'll be a lot of guys playing for spots that aren't best 23 that will want to lock in their spot quite early into the year. So I'll take GWS if You asked for more than tips, but I'm just giving you tips.
Just skipped a few points there.
I mean, I'm taking Sydney and GWS.
Have you done your zero hanger tips?
I have not.
You haven't
yet.
done your tips?
No. Do you want to explain what the zero hanger
We
tipping
can,
is?
yeah. People like listeners have got plenty of time to get on board. So it's pretty much just like a weighted point scale. So I think it uses odds, and what you can do is if a team's paying $1.85, $1.90, you can lock that price in. But obviously, as the market fluctuates, you can actually change your tips. At the moment, if I get mine up, I've got Sydney at 190 points. But if someone was to jump on them now, they'd only get 185. And you still have to get your tip right. Obviously, if you get it wrong, you get 0. And then I've got the Giants at 215 points, which they're valued at 215 still. But if I changed and I wanted Collingwood, I'm only getting 170 for them to win. So at the moment, I'm getting 405 points across 2 games, which means you're backing at least one outsider. So that's where I'm at. You guys done yours?
Yeah, I think I had Swans and being a Collingwood fan, AFL fan more so. Yeah, I got the pies in. But
Love's gathered around.
Just on that, given the fact we are talking about the pies, I do think, obviously a big watch is on them. The age has been spoken about at length, ad nauseum. The recruits as well. Again, don't need to mention them. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who they are by now. But just touching on last year, they got a terrible start and they just couldn't catch up. I think McRae and obviously his team will look to get off to a fly this year. I think they've got obviously the Giants this weekend and then Port and then Bulldogs. So they've got a few kind of challenging tests early on and an early dub, I guess, if you will only get their season going in the right direction, which clearly last year they couldn't do. So that's probably why I've got them ahead, as well as as you mentioned, the Giants outs. I think there's a few there structurally that might just have to put too many magnets around from Adam Kingsley that might just put them a little bit to the disadvantage, but not by much.
So pies.
Yep, always, by the way.
What you got?
Yeah, I'll go Hawthorn for the Hawks Sydney game. I think if there's a time to back them, it might as well be now. We haven't seen anyone's full team yet. The season hasn't started, so I might just back them in while I can. And for the Giants pies, I'm going to have to go the pies as well. I was able to lock them in for 195 points before they slid into the favourites. I think it was before the Hogan and Stringer
You've done well there.
injuries. So
Down to 170, so that's good.
yeah,
All right,
so
pies are favourites.
What are you getting for your 2? All up?
I think it'd be 390 or something like that. I think.
Yeah,
from memory. I just think that with the injuries the Giants have, and maybe I think it might take them a little while to adjust to a couple of the exits they've had in the team with Pete Ling.
Actually, that's a good point as well.
Oh, that's a handy point.
Is it the handiest one though?
Is it the point? We'll have to find out.
Find out at the end.
But yeah, I just think, and then of course the suspensions as well from the Mad Monday. So I think, the pies get it done.
I forgot about that as well.
Yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5 players missing the first 2 weeks.
I'm changing my tip. I'm going pies.
Jake Riccardi's probably the only
And Thomas.
big one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Harvey
Thomas
Thomas
is
is
solid,
better.
but they can fill his role.
Yeah.
I guess, and like no Hogan, you rely on
Yeah.
a Riccardi and he can't play. So, yeah. All right. What's
Okay,
next?
Interesting. Sweet. All right. Well, we kind of already started touching on it, but next thing on the rundown is the preseason form of other clubs. So, who have we liked and disliked? Did you guys watch much of the preseason? You should.
Yeah, I think I got at least a look at each team, not every game, but each team. And it's always so hard to read into preseason. Like, what was it, like 2 years ago that West Coast smashed Freo, and I think someone else got battered. Both of those sides went opposite ends of the ladder. So there's a few things to like. I liked both SA clubs. I think they're both fascinating to watch this year. A, because of Port and Ken Hinkley and everything that's going on there. And then B, Adelaide with their expectations, aggressive off-season. So James Beatling looks like could be one of the best recruits of the year. And then obviously the Power were just as aggressive. Lose Dan Houston, but they've got more than enough halfbacks to fill his void. And then Jack Lukosius looked pretty good over the weekend as well. Jeremy Finlayson in that kind of halfback role. If he somehow ends up as the Dan Houston replacement, that's probably one of the biggest surprises. But yeah, I was really happy with both of the South Australian clubs.
I think one note I'll make is you might be happy with this is, I guess, Melbourne, their band getting back together. Again, I'm not setting the expectations on them in 2025. They've still got a lot of things to sort out, but it was great to see Petrarca kind of at his best again to an extent. He might be maybe half a step behind the pace, but he'll pick that up pretty quickly. He's a superstar. Oliver, 30 plus and 3 goals, and obviously Gawn feeding it to them. It is pretty exciting. Again, just to see the best players at their best again. Not to say that they're going to take Melbourne back to top 4. I know you probably think they will. Maybe, maybe not. But it was great to kind of just see them back in full flight, because I think when the best players are playing at their best, that's what people kind of get around, regardless if they're on your team or not.
Yeah, I did catch that. Like, I think it was the first stoppage of that game against Freo. Like, Petrarca just zoomed in there, got that ball dished out. I had a couple of feelings going into that game, and then as soon as that happened, I had some more feelings.
Yeah.
Callum?
Some things that excited me were definitely the Bombers' youth. I've been pretty, I don't know what the word for it is.
Bullish?
Yeah, I'm bullish on their forwards now, but previously I was a bit against the Bombers. And I didn't really see where the results were going to come from. Some people have them, some people some people have had them up in the top 8. Some people see them sliding all the way down. And I was on that latter end. I thought that, where's the talent coming from? Where's the youth coming from? It's similar to how Hawthorn were a couple of years ago. You couldn't really see it coming through. But I think this pre-season, it's hard to not buy into the hype of Isaac Kako and Nate Caddy. Like, they're young players, first year, second year. So, of course, they'll have their ebbs and flows this season. But I think there's just a lot of energy that could even just spark the experienced players throughout the season. I think it adds a lot of energy and just, I guess it just adds a bit more like talent and something for Essendon fans to really grip onto, and like something exciting to watch each week.
I agree. I think they're young. Like, Kako looks awesome. Is it Kako or Keiko?
I think it's Kako.
Keiko? Okay.
No,
Kako?
Yeah. First, what I said that you just did not follow and repeat it.
Kako is so exciting, but I don't think that's enough. I've got them bottom 4, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to say the same thing. I think they might slide into the bottom 4. I don't see them, these two players skyrocketing them, but I do think it's a sign for the future. I think before the Bombers have lacked something that tells them that the future's ready and bright, and I think that this is something that Bombers fans can look forward to a little bit.
I think besides maybe Melbourne, they've got the biggest kind of like window.
Range.
Yeah. Like, they could crash and be probably not bottom 3. They could fall below North, but unlikely. Whereas, I think they could. Like, they've been top 4 thereabouts around the bye most years, and it's just about having that energy and gelling it together for that home stretch. Young guys good. Health is obviously going to be a big thing for them. Like, if there was Zach Reid and Jordan Ridley to really long periods, it's just going to, like, Ben Mackay had such a good year last year. I feel like a lot of people just already had a knock on him before his season even started, but he was rock solid for them for most parts. I'm not saying he was consistent, but they would be really happy with what they had there. So if Ridley can stay fit and Reid can stay fit, and that they hold up that end of the bargain, I don't think there'll be too much worry if they're relying on a Caddy and a Kako, and they've still got Langford and Wright, who are 50 goal forwards. Not that they'll get that from both of them this year, but I think they'll be more defensive focused where their strengths are at.
Yep. And then who struggled? So obviously Richmond, St Kilda.
Yeah, I was at that Richmond Pies game. It's hard watching, but you're just looking for glimpses, really. Like, their expectations aren't wins and losses. It's just development. So that was one. Saints is ugly. Richmond's not great to watch, but when you've got a lot higher expectation for a club like St Kilda, who had a lot of kids playing and have their own injury issues themselves, it's a bit uglier to kind of watch how that all fell apart against Port Adelaide.
Yep. Yeah, that game against Port Adelaide, watched a bit of it on the Saturday, I think it was, and it was pretty hard watching. They were pretty easy to transition through, I found. Their defensive running wasn't that great, and I think, the injuries are going to be a toll on them to start the season. I think without King and all those, and Philippou through the midfield, I think they're still lacking something there, and I think it could be a rough start for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we're not reading too much into the pre-season, but I mean, look.
But their shot.
Yeah, I to be honest, I had Saints kind of finishing bottom 4, maybe prior to the pre-season, sorry.
Yeah,
and then just with
I think that's the
ridiculous amount of injuries to key players as well, or even injury clouds. I kind of continually see them sliding further and further down the ladder.
It's not ideal when you rely on Max King, and rightfully so, but then if your next best forward is a Cooper Sharman, who's also injured, and he's the number 2 guy, it's going to be tough for them to score this year, I think.
Have we taken into, have we done any sort of ladder on who has the most preseason injuries so far? It's Saints is up there, right?
Saints would be up there. There's
Carlton?
Definitely, Carlton's not great.
We've got 2, I guess, out for the year almost.
That doesn't help.
3,
when you start, knowing you're a few men down, there's definitely a club I'm forgetting.
Bulldogs.
Dogs are the big one,
Bulldogs
actually.
would be-
When you've
that's
got
right.
I think
Bont was just almost a final blow before you had the season started. Like Jones and Bont, probably them two most important players.
Trelaw.
And then you had
Ed
Trelaw.
Richards has a bit of an injury
Yeah,
cloud.
Bailey Dale.
Bailey Dale.
Like there's 4 All-Australians.
Oh yeah, no, they're shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. Like North Melbourne round 1, they'll be licking their lips. But then again, if North don't look competitive in that game,
And is it a
yeah,
big concern there?
that's going to be a worry. What's next?
Yep. All right. Luke Jackson.
Oh yeah, you'd be.
Tell me about this because I did see the headline. I don't know how excited I should be. Should I be excited? Please tell me I should be excited.
I think you can be. Like if would you take Jackson over Cozzy?
I would prefer them both.
Yeah, but like
had them both.
at this rate, you're going to get neither. So
If Pickett has to go, and if we can do a straight swap for Jackson, I think that's.
I reckon you're giving up a little bit more than Pickett to get him though.
Oh, I reckon Pickett would be.
I reckon Pickett's more valuable.
No, I
than
think
Jackson.
I think no.
I'd rather keep Pickett than have Jackson.
So who's rucking once Max retires?
I don't know, Matt Jefferson.
Tom Campbell.
Tom Campbell.
You forgot Tom
You
Campbell.
just get the tallest guy under 24. And you just,
Tom Campbell's going to play till he's 40.
yeah. No. So
Campbell.
I would be giving up. I'd be giving up more to get Jackson than I would be giving to get Cozzy. Like a small forward, like a good, really good small forward. That level's hard to get, but a ruckman that can play forward.
It's just
because he's a midfielder that plays forward.
Yeah, it's just who comes to the party first. So Fremantle, which I think have already shown their hands in saying they want Pickett.
Yeah,
Whereas Jackson's like, could be. So Melbourne,
They're
from
both
them,
contracted
sit back,
as well.
wait till they go, can we actually make this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you might have the whip hand in that negotiation.
Yeah. Circling back to those who actually don't know the situation. So there was a report, over the weekend, literally actually as they were playing the Dockers
on
and
Sunday.
Demons.
Yeah.
I think it was Mitch Cleary?
Yeah.
Yeah. So supposedly it's not, like he's happy at Fremantle. And, he's from WA and that's why he moved
Contracted.
from Melbourne. And he's got a deal until 2029 or something. Yeah. But supposedly his head could be turned, I think it was the term, by Melbourne clubs and namely Melbourne. There might be a few others involved. But, I think it was his partner's his partner
Vic, I think.
works in Melbourne. I don't know if she's from there, but that's obviously something that they would both have to weigh up and what he would have to weigh up. So if there's a chance that he moves back, you'd have to think the Demons are in the front seat, just given the capital that they've got. You don't have a first round pick either, so you'd have to be giving up Cozzy. And then on top of that, relationships probably help. He's won a flag there. The one I would like to see would be Essendon just throwing everything at him. They've got 2 first rounders this year. I know, you're going to hate that because I didn't say Melbourne.
Yeah, and the fact is Essendon.
That too, but 2 first rounders this year. They can throw in a third if they needed to somehow, really jump you guys. And if Jackson was kind of just open to getting back, if a deal couldn't be done with Melbourne, and they would love a forward ruck, especially with how they use Draper, with how they use Nick Bryan, and with both of those guys uncontracted and Draper, potentially having interest from elsewhere. It would make a lot of sense for Essendon to put their hand up.
Well, I think Saints obviously just put themselves into the mix.
Saints will take anybody.
I feel like Saints are kind of the north from 2014, 15 years where they have put their hand up for any superstar player.
Yeah.
And obviously Kelly and Martin's plea there, and they couldn't get them. And I feel like Saints are the same with Callaghan, obviously passing Brayshaw.
Yeah,
but if Jackson's head can be turned, you'd think Saints, and we're also going after DeConing as well, from our understanding.
Jackson Marshall combo would be.
I think that's
pretty fun
because I remember when Paddy Ryder kind of gone back to yesteryear, they kind of worked in tandem. I think
that's how he had his breakout, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of a good mix.
Handed it over
Because you have a genuine athletic ruckman, and then Marshall's kind of that grinder who gets around the ground quite well. So you'd think again, if Jackson does turn his head, you have to say the Saints are in the mix.
A lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah, given their war chest and ability to kind of facilitate a deal.
Yeah. Do you have a price on Jackson?
A price on him? I think he'll definitely be worth a few because of his contract. I think that 2029 deal, that's going to be hard to get out of. Someone's going to have to play a big hand like the Saints with, their war chest really of money and salary cap space. And then, of course, Melbourne can offer up Cozzy Pickett. And I think if something was to get done, I feel like Melbourne would be leading just because they have, a player, like a ready-made player to go.
Yeah.
Fremantle are contending. They want something to keep them contending. I'm not sure if they're looking for draft picks right now with the position they're in. So I think that Cozzy Pickett could be the bait if he's willing to go. He sounds like he's willing to go home. It's whether the deal can get done.
Okay. I guess it does come down to where Jackson wants to go. If he wants to go to Melbourne, it should be pretty straightforward. And then if he wants to go elsewhere, Freo would have to get what they can get for Jackson and then pass it on to get Cozzy.
So do you think Jackson is worth, let's say, 2 first rounders?
At least.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So because the other thing is for Freo, if they they'll get Cozzy in for Jackson. They could still have the capital to get like a Chad Warner. So there is that benefit as well that they have to figure. And they got Sean Darcy if he's fit.
That's what I
like
was
they
about to
could
say,
be
John.
ticking a lot of boxes, even though they're losing what could be a generational talent.
So Brad Green has come out, and I love this. He said that Cozzy Pickett is worth 3 first rounders. So if my trade math is correct, that means we could do Cozzy for Jackson.
This is going to be
plus,
so wrong.
plus another first rounder.
No.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, but I'm not agreeing.
Who is
I'm
the
not agreeing with
Fremantle
Brad,
list manager?
I'm not agreeing with Brad Green. Like, that's
Why
the
not?
whole point. It's like if what are you, Jackson or Cozzy? Who are you taking?
If I had to pick,
Like if it's a straight
right
swap,
now.
who has to give up more?
I think Melbourne would probably have to give up more. I'd say.
Yeah, they're the same age, same draft.
I'd have to say
One's a ruckman who's been doing it, like didn't need time to develop his craft that much,
Yeah.
and he's got a big ceiling.
Also gets suspended less.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Jackson's playing the first 3 games this year. All right,
All right, cool. All right,
into the fun stuff.
Watch out for that one, Fremantle list manager. All right, okay, yeah, fun stuff. Season predictions. All right, we're gonna go around the table, and we're just gonna go. All right, we'll start with the obvious one. So premiers, we're gonna start with Callum Farquhar.
Whoa.
I'm going to go Hawthorn. I think it's the one year. I feel like it's the one year I can back him as a Hawthorn fan.
You can back Hawthorn every year.
I could back
basically.
Hawthorn every year, but then I would get done for a lot of bias, and I'm trying to steer clear of that. But at the same time, there will be a little bit of bias, but I do think we're a genuine fancy. I mean, we're the second favourite on the market, but right now behind the reigning premier. I think with the additions that we've made to the team, with Tom Barras, Josh Battle, I think it'll bolster the team. You've got versatility in the list as well. You got Josh Weddle, Carl Amon, and Jarman Impey that can sort of rotate through the wing. You can get Massimo D'Ambrosio through the wing or through halfback, and then you've got players that can pinch hit in the ruck. You got Marby or Chol up forward if he wants to, and then Mitchell Lewis when he comes back, he's touted as Hawthorn's most promising key forward. He's been off the park a little bit, but I think if he can get a good run at it, we'll have that key forward, or Hawthorn will have that key forward in their forward line that can do the damage. So I think Hawthorn are a good chance this year.
Should we just package the runners up as well in the same? Who you got the runners up?
Yep, I'll go Brisbane runners up. I think they've got the deepest list in the league. I think the fact that Levi Ashcroft is really going to have to work to get a debut just suggests how deep their list is, especially with him being probably the most talented player in the list. In the draft class, I think he only slipped because he was a father-son. They've got the forward line with Joe Danaher leaving, but I think back to I'm going to mention Hawthorn again, but I think back to when they lost Buddy Franklin and they still went on to win 2 more. And I think Brisbane have the depth on their list that they can just cover that. They've got young players coming through. They've still got Eric Hipwood, who arguable whether he's consistent or not. But I still just think overall they've got just the list build that's talented enough to go again.
Yeah. Do you want me to go?
Premiers runners up.
I got Sydney. I reckon they'll do it this year. In Dean Cox's first year. So
God, that would just
one of us is going to look pretty shocking.
That would be so hard on Longmire. Although he's still at the club. So
Yeah,
I
he's
guess
like
it wouldn't be
he's
too
the
bad.
coaching
Yeah.
director or some sort of higher up role. So
Wouldn't mind
in a
seeing
way, but it'd be the old Bob Murphy. They'd get him on stage anyway.
Yeah.
wouldn't they? And then I got them beating GWS. So
Oh, all Sydney.
If it's anything like last year's qualifier,
Yeah.
we can have another opening round for the grand final.
Opening round 3.
reopen the
The
season.
grand final.
Don't have Brisbane. Midfield's crazy for them, and their backline should just hold up. But I think the Danaher thing, and I know it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I think it will be. Like you said, like the Buddy loss, and Danaher's no Buddy, so that's a bigger hole to fill. But like Hipwood's not a rough head, and I don't know if they have a Cyril, and I don't know if they have a Gunston and a Bruce. Like they might, like Charlie Cameron, Kyle Lohman, Logan Morris to support's good. I'm definitely forgetting a few. Like Zach Bailey, Rayner Archie. They'd probably bat deeper, but I don't think they have the spearhead. And when their rucks are like McInerney's solid, but the midfield shouldn't really lose any weekend with how well they'll have that second wave.
Yeah.
So Brisbane are still a top 4 for me, but I've got the Swans beating the Giants.
Okay, cool. Premiers, I've gone Flag Mantle. The vibes are pretty high. I think last year they reminded me a little bit of these 2020 where they would like
Just fell off a bit.
decent. Yeah, they just fell off. Didn't win the games that they should have. and then they went and won it the next year. That's all I'm basing it off, just vibes. You get Bolton in, and then Luke Jackson's last year before he comes back to the D's. Pretty comfortable premiers, I reckon. And then I've got them beating Gold Coast from fourth.
You just brought all the takes into your first episode. From fourth.
No.
takes for the rest of the year.
I truly
There's no
believe
point
this.
for the podcast.
I said Gold Coast make finals last year, and they just missed
Let
out.
you down.
Gold Coast, I've got a good vibe on. I reckon
So from
that.
fourth?
What?
So
From fourth. Yeah.
So
I reckon they're going to make top four.
The Freo minor premiers. It's like
I don't know how it works. It's
No, I'm
vibes
just
only.
saying you got them. You might have them playing week 1 and then they come back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. How
That'd be a
it
good
works
effort.
from fourth. Yeah, but then
Yeah,
like
play
I don't know.
depends.
I don't know if Freo will finish top.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
never mind then.
Yeah, whatever the math is to work it out. But I reckon Gold Coast just scrape into the top 4.
Yeah.
I reckon that red on red Guernsey is going to be legendary because everyone hates it, but it's going to start the new thing because they'll win next year. So this is their year to come runners up, and then they'll win the
year
next year.
after.
It's like a Brisbane repeat.
Yeah.
The pink in the grand final.
that's the
against
vibe.
Purple would be nice. That'd be a nice jersey clash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pink and purple.
Bring
granny.
that gather round pinky out for the grand final. That'd be a good
Oh, I would
That's
love
insane.
That
that.
would be pretty cool. That'd be
Yeah.
a sight to see.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
for mine, I've got the Cats, the perpetually contending Cats, which a lot of people are like, are you serious? Like, get them out there. Olden in the way and also Regenerate on the way. So Bailey Smith, huge in. I really like kind of Jack Martin's inclusion. They got him from absolutely bag of peanuts. But he still has that X factor. He came into Carlton's finals team a couple of years ago when they made that run to the prelim and did some damage. And then you've also got the Messiah, Chris Scott, at the helm. And he, rarely misses finals, I think twice in his tenure. But also just seems to do the right things and get his team the right way. So I think the big knock on them would be what they do with the ruck.
Yeah.
I've seen Sam DeConing there. Their forward line's still strong as ever, with now probably Dangerfield being added to that more prominently, given the fact they've kind of bolstered their midfield. And their defence as well is stacked with probably the best defender, I think, in Tom Stewart in the game. There with obviously a few others as well. So I've got them holding the cup aloft in September this year, but I've also got them beating Collingwood.
That'd be a big game.
I also think, they're just so, again, as we've all mentioned, they're all chips in. They've gone heavy on the recruiting, the Pies. So it's kind of a now or never for them, especially for a few of the older players. I think they might hang up the boots at season's end, probably at least 2 or 3. So you can see their intent. You can see what they're doing on the track. They had a bit of an injury issue last year. So hopefully for their sake, they don't have that this year, which means if they're fresh, they could return to kind of 2023 eras. So that's why I've got them on the last Saturday of September with Geelong.
Huge.
All right,
Should we make this next one quick?
Spooners. Yep.
Richmond.
All those in favour?
Mate,
Save Richmond.
It's going to be a tough year, but they've got something to look forward to, and that's North Melbourne's potential demise and holding their pick.
I actually don't have.
Oh
Richmond.
no! What? Like I know you can have takes, but you can't just be wrong all the time.
I've got Saints as my spooners.
How many wins do the Saints have this year then?
I reckon they get. So this is my prediction. I think the best, because I go from vibes and storylines, right? The best storyline this year is
Making storylines at the moment.
yeah. Well, the AFL it's all
all it's all
storylines, right? So my storyline this year is Ross Lyon just slowly imploding over every press conference after every game this year.
He's one of the funniest press conferences.
Absolutely,
people ever.
yeah.
Just ask him a question and
it's
he'll give you a 5-minute answer, but don't answer.
And this is what I want. This is what I want to see, obviously, because you want Collingwood to be in the grand final. That's based on hope. My hope is that St Kilda implode, and it's the most entertaining year of press conferences ever.
Yeah, you're brilliant, Shane. You should get one of them by the end of the year.
I also want Ross Lyon to attack me personally. I reckon, just so I can live in infamy.
In a Muay Thai ring or something? Or just
No, just because that guy, who's that guy, Shane?
Shane McGuinness.
Yeah. We know who he is.
Oh, all right. I can't believe that. So wait, you love
I'm
Tigers.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's why we're the riders.
I'm happy to. Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm a fan. I'm the
takes guy.
average AFL
He's
fan.
If Saints
Shooting from the hip, but you're not shooting accurately. It's just like
if Saints
like narrowly missing your foot.
Saints
I've got
are
some actual
Spurs,
takes in it.
I'll buy you a Palmer.
You'll buy me a Palmer?
I'll buy you a
What a
Palmer.
big-
Oh, I can buy myself a Palmer.
I'll buy you the next 5 Palmers then. How about that?
All right, done.
Done. It's
All
on
right.
camera too, by the way.
Thank you. All right, Brownlow.
Yeah, this might sound obvious. One of the favourites, Nick Dacos. I think, given what I said about Collingwood's, my thinking is they're going to rise. The way they do that is through him. Record-breaking year, although didn't win last year, which again has been documented with 38 votes in the Brownlow. Polls well. The Pies like getting the footy into his hands. The game plan, admittedly, probably revolves a lot around him. Mm-hmm. So if he can remain on the park, I think every game Collingwood wins, he's more often than not going to be getting some votes, which then by the end of the year, you'd think he'd be right at the top. So he's my tip for the Brownlow.
Yeah. I've got Horn Francis just based off that Indigenous All-Stars game. It was really fun.
He's not going to play against 20 forward pockets every week. But no, to be fair, I actually, this is going to make me sound stupid. I did like the top contenders thing this week, and I had him in there, and like I think he'll do really well. The stupid thing is that I didn't have Chad Warner in there, and he's probably actually my tip. I had the Heaney, and I had Heaney in there because of how good he was last year, and I mentioned Errol probably can't win it, and I kind of had a little note saying, Chad can, but he probably wasn't like one of the actual big names. But going through kind of predictions this morning, doing what classic people do and make lists, and then they make another list the next week and contradict themselves. But no, I think it'll be Chad. But this is probably just me just not saying Nick Dacos. It probably will. Like if I'm putting money on something like this, it's probably Dacos.
Yep.
But I think I like the Chad. I think he'll go past Heaney. Errol misses a fair bit of the season. And it might just be two of them fighting for most of the votes.
Yeah, I'm going Nick Dacos as well. Same as Aiden. I think I agree that Collingwood will rise up this year. I think they'll get a top 4 spot or maybe just a home elimination final. And I think that's just going to boost how well Dacos polls. He already polls extremely well. So adding on some wins in his 4th or 5th season now, I think he's just going to poll extremely well. He'll be hard to stop, especially now that Bonampelli's gone for 6 weeks. It might take him out the running. There'll probably be another battle with Cripps if we're being honest. So I look forward to it. I think Dacos gets his first one this year.
Yep. And we'll stick with you. So we'll go Coleman.
Coleman medal. I'm going Nick Larkey. I was looking through last year's predictions and a lot of people had him, but he sort of had that fall off after he kicked maybe like 70 plus or something like that in 2023 or 2022.
Yeah, 71 goals.
Yeah, 71 goals. So I think Jack Darling, while I was pretty against it at the start of the trade period, I had a look at their preseason. I think he does give him a bit of space. He sort of takes off one of those extra good key defenders, and it sort of provides Larkey with a bit of space, a bit more room to move. It's a little less congested for him, and he gets a bit less of the attention. So I think he'll do well up the forward line this year, and I think North Melbourne will probably ascend the ladder a little bit too. I think a lot of people predict them to rise. I'm sort of on that bandwagon a little bit, so I think he'll come into his own a little bit and win a Coleman this year.
I went lucky last year, but then I realised that they're probably only going to win about 2 games, so I took it back after a couple of weeks.
I can't remember if I had him last year, but I got him this year. I think he'll 71 goals. I think from 100 shots was easily one of the most accurate seasons we've had for a while. And then the Darling factor, I think I was the same. I was kind of like, oh, he might help. But then people kind of brought to light how his training standards are like at West Coast and the difference that makes. I remember it was Clary speaking about, what was his name? Billy Stretch. He was in your list a few years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. Not the biggest name, but supposedly he was the reason why Clary just became super fit all of a sudden and then had a really strong breakout year the next year. So, Billy Stretch, who I think just might be playing sample footy and didn't really get much of a run at Melbourne, he's a big reason why Clary had such a big breakout. Started strong anyway, but just took his game to a new level just because of the standards that he was training with when he was with Billy Stretch. So if Jack Darling can do the same for someone like Nick Larkey, could press the 80-goal barrier, but I think if he does another 71 goals, that could be enough to win it anyway. So, with the Roos having more wins and probably higher scoring and more efficient forward line, I think a lot of the focus is still on Larkey, and that's probably why he'll still be a standout.
Yeah. Yep. I still think, I think last year with Darling being that second or maybe even third option, he only kicked about 20-odd goals, but Jake Waterman, he excelled with him being that second option, and he kicked 50-plus goals for the first time in West Coast, only won a few handful of games. Yeah. He was All-Australian, so I think I guess that's some proof that of what he can do, and I think that'll help Lucky out.
Yeah, absolutely. Since I'm on the flag mantle train, I just went Josh Tracy.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
I wouldn't have minded JMS, but I think he's maybe another year away.
Yeah.
From being in that category.
Similar line of thinking. I've said Cats for the premiership and Jeremy Cameron for Coleman. I think he's just probably the best player when he's at his best in the competition. So I think if the Cats do win, it's going to be because of him.
Yep. Sticking with you, Rising Star.
Kako. Saw his performance against the Cats in the preseason. Again, I know it's only kind of a first glimpse, but there's just a lot of things that he seems he can do, especially in his draft year, that a lot of the other players that did get drafted might kind of not be able to, in terms of a lot of them were midfielders. So just say Levi Ashcroft, who probably is one of the favourites to take out the Rising Star. He's going to be battling against Dunkley and all that in that midfield, let alone against the other best players in the competition. Whereas Kako, if he bobs up for 3-4 goals a game, more often than not, the voters are going to go, well, this guy's a difference maker. And that's not taking anything away from those who were drafted in the same class as him. But I think, just kind of that match-winning ability that he has, I think, although very early in the piece, I think that might put him ahead of maybe the others that he came up with in the draft.
I'm going Harvey Langford, for purely biased reasons.
I'm happy at least, you said, like, I knew
I'm literally wearing a D's hat.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've got Caddy just because he's still eligible this year. I
definitely forgot that you could win it even in your second year.
I'm going to shamelessly name Sid Draper and Levi Ashcroft. I only think Ashcroft, if he plays like a full season, like he very well could, he'll get it. If Sid Draper could, but I think Adelaide might just manage his workloads because his injury and like back and can't remember what the other issue he had, have just slowed him down a little bit over his draft campaign and over the preseason. So he might not get that full season that they usually like to reward players for in the Rising Star. But Caddy, I think he can press 35, 40 goals if everything kind of clicks for him in his second season, extra preseason under his belt than most, and he's going to be a pretty big piece of Essendon's forward line.
Yep. I was originally pretty bullish on Leo Lombard from the Suns. I think I've really liked his body of work leading up to getting drafted. I think he was part of that VFL Premiership side in 2023. He kicked a goal, played 3 games when he was 16, including that one there, and then he played maybe 8 or 9, 10 games last year for the Suns VFL. And I honestly compare it to like a Luka Doncic in the NBA. He played Euro basketball, which is a professional league, and he came in sort of just was a class above his draft class counterparts in that rookie season. He won the Rookie of the Year. So that's why I was pretty bullish on Leo Lombard. He sort of has that extra maybe experience against men. So I think, and he's got quite the body and the build to play against men already as well. Yeah. So I thought he was already quite physically ready, but of course he's got that shoulder injury now. So I think he'll be playing a bit of catch up. He'll probably get a nomination, but I think he might just be the body of work by the end of the season might be a little less than some others. So I'm going to go with Levi Ashcroft. I think he, as I mentioned earlier, I think he's the most talented draft pick in this draft. He probably would have gone number 1 if he wasn't a father's son. So I'm just going to back his talent, and with Brisbane's likely success throughout the season, he'll probably get some good performances under his belt.
Yeah, the Lombard point, like I probably would have gone Jagger Smith if he was fit, and Draper played half a dozen games for South Adelaide last year. Ashcroft played a game in the VFL and had 30 and a goal. So yeah, you're right. If they can come straight in, like off the back of some good VFL form from their draft year, makes sense. So hence why, Caddy as well. He's got that experience already under his belt with a year in the AFL.
Cool. AA Smokey?
I'm going to go with Sam Darcy from the Bulldogs. I'm not sure how much of a Smokey it is. He is predicted to lift off, but he hasn't, become an All-Australian yet, so I've sort of picked him there. I think with Jamara Ugle-Hagan, who knows how long he'll be out of the side for, but I think that sort of makes it less congested in the forward line. It's just the pairing of him and Aaron Norton now instead of the three-pronged attack. So I think he'll lift off. He showed some really, really good signs against Hawthorn in the preseason match. He was like a unicorn out there. Yeah. So I'm really excited just by his potential, really. I think he'll ascend the goal kicking rankings this year, and I think he'll find his way into the All-Australian.
Yeah.
What's the threshold for a Smokey for an AA? Just hasn't been in the squad?
I guess so. Yeah, I'll just name you and
if you've never been in the top 44,
or
you're coming off like a year on the sidelines, that's probably about it.
Yeah. No, I like Sam Darcy. He's also the most interesting footy player to watch, just
because of
from a
his height and-
biomechanical.
Yeah.
I watch him like I'm watching a nature documentary.
Yeah.
Like he's
It's
just
like
interesting
10
to
meters
watch.
away from the pack. I'm like, well, he's not getting there.
Yeah. He takes one step
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. AA Smokey?
I got Trent Rivers. I just feel like
Oh, I love that.
I feel like he would have grown his game a lot with all the midfield time, and now he won't be relied on as much, but he can roll through the midfield and play a lot more midfield time. But I think he's going to be named at like halfback if he gets named.
Yeah.
Which in the halfback spots, there's always a few weird ones that kind of come through, and sometimes they shift. If they can shift a midfielder somewhere else in the All-Australian side that isn't the forward line, if Rivers is playing a midfield back line,
They'll put him in the
kind of
forward
flex role, they could roll him at halfback. I think, and he's pretty young still, so he's probably just about hit his peak range next few years. And yeah, I think because I have the Demons improving and playing finals this year. It sounds like I've got about 10 teams playing finals this year.
Yeah.
But Trent Rivers.
I went Josh Rochelle. I think he's going to have a pretty good year.
Revenge season.
Vibes. Yeah,
like
revenge
that.
season. He's had a lot of stuff talked about him in the media, and I think he's going to come for some bodies.
Oh, don't you?
you go.
That's the first and last time.
Any points?
Yeah. That's all I'm doing. Had to clarify that though.
Good save.
My Smokey is Tom De Koning. Obviously, a lot of talk about him, what he's going to do next year. Max Gawn said he might be worth 40 million the way he's going, and someone needs to unfortunately take Max off that pedestal as probably the greatest ruckman to maybe ever do it. The age might catch up to him, and De Koning's just hitting his straps. So I think with his athletic build and profile, he's got the capacity to do so. And I think Carlton realise he is their number one man, aside from Mark Pitnett, who might pinch it every now and then. So if De Koning gets a free run at it, injury free that is, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts his hand up for All Australian at the end of the year.
Yep. Love it. All right. Last thing. What is it a big year for in 2025?
Dun dun dun.
Like the who, the what, just anything.
Anything. It's a big year for
The other doggies.
Yeah.
Beveridge off contract. Jamara question marks. Not over his playing future, but like his career, and where he potentially might end up at the end of the year if he's not at the Dogs. So that'll be fascinating to watch. Again, Essendon, I reckon, just watch out for them, just given they've got the draft capital and would love a player like him. But Bevo's obviously a big one, and how important a good start to this season was going to be for them. All the injuries could really put them behind the eight ball. And they start with one win in their first. They've got a hard start. Like if they can't defeat North Melbourne, which they definitely couldn't at this, like they definitely might not at this point, just given their injuries, and then it only still gets harder with the quality of talent they have over the next month. They could be 0-5, 1-4, and then it's really hard to get people on your side after that. So pressure on Bevo might come quick, and then they've got a lot else to deal with off field.
yeah.
Not that the bomb will leave, but he's also off contract, and that would be the final blow. Like he won't leave.
No.
I would be shocked.
It does feel like
I'll buy
nothing.
you a Palmer. If you
We're
leave.
getting a lot of Palmers this year. It does feel like this is a all or nothing year. Like it's a season finale for the Western Bulldogs.
It could go so right though. Like
Yeah.
it's like,
Could
and
click.
I have come around a little bit, and I would love to see Bevo just like really just stick it up. Like
Yeah.
kind of what Ken Hinckley really wants to do as well.
Yeah.
It's just just kind of give it back to everyone at some
That's a
point.
good storyline. That would
So
be.
I would like to see that.
Port
I just can't see
Doggies
that. If
grand final would be an amazing storyline.
Both coaches
God.
get a premiership medal.
Yeah. Actually, by that point, though, it might be Hinkley already out. All right. It's a big year for who?
I've got North Melbourne. I was going to go the Bulldogs as well, but I think North Melbourne, this is the year they're expected to rise. Alistair Clarkson needs to see some improvement from his side. They've got the young stars now. They've got, Finn O'Sullivan, Harry Sheasel, of course, Luke Davies-Uniacke. Whether he's going to sign is going to come down to whether they see some improvement on field. So I think it's really like time is now for North Melbourne to actually see some improvement on the field. I don't know how much longer North fans can take from them dwelling around the bottom of the ladder. And especially when you've got such a star caliber player tossing up his future, and a lot of the reports are coming out that it's based on whether they'll see some success. They've really got to start now.
Yeah, like money's not going to be an issue. Like from what they can offer.
Exactly.
Like if you wanted the money, they probably would have signed by now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
God, that'll be a setback for them. They've got good midfield depth, but like you're trying to rebuild, you've got a really, really good player, and if he left,
First round pick, I think he was top 10.
top 4, I think it was pick 4, yeah.
So
Yep.
Big loss.
I've got Freo coach Justin Longmuir. Everyone probably saw that, I guess, alteration to his coaching contract with Bench is ongoing, so there's no necessary end date. Don't think it changes a thing. They've gone, I guess, all in with Shea Bolton coming to the club. They think their list is ready to contend now. One finals appearance since their 2015 year, maybe, I think in 2022.
One under Longmuir.
One under Longmuir as well. So look, I think they're desperate for Longmuir to be their premiership coach. They made him premiership coach. They put everything around him to make sure that he can do the job to the best of his ability. But I also think it's a make or break year. So if he doesn't make finals, I wouldn't be surprised to see him shown the door despite the change in contract. But also I think they're a team that should be around the mark. So that's why I've got him kind of under the magnifying glass.
I read that article about his contract and I really didn't understand what was happening.
They can just sack him whenever they want.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they've kind of tied him behind his back. So if he wanted to get a contract extension and get paid more, if he wins the flag this year, it's kind of now have to go back to the contract and renegotiate and all of that. So, which is if he were
there'll be some benefits.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like there's a lot that people wouldn't know.
I think
but really they can just do whatever they want.
I think it was more to drown out the media frenzy surrounding him.
John hate if things get a bit tricky halfway through the year.
Yeah, I think
and they still want to back him in, and it's just a week after.
I feel like it added to it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just going to add. If they're not doing that great, he's going to cop it regardless.
Yeah.
So I think it's you can kind of drown out the media just by winning games. That's all they need to do. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. And last one, it's a big year for me for the broadcasters. So I'm a big,
You Fox or Channel 7?
I am KO. I cannot stand Channel 7.
So both?
What?
Could they just play the Channel 7, like if it's a Channel 7 game?
I
but
can't-
like as in
no.
like halftime pre-game or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I've always gone KO, whatever's on KO and Fox. Cannot stand Channel 7. I think BT gets fired this year. How are you going to compete with
you just sign a couple
Friday
of
night, like Hutto and Jared, Friday nights,
Jared
and
would be-
BT's
Jared
Thursday
would be
nights?
interesting because I don't really listen to Jared. Like I don't listen.
His
to
calls like
Yeah, like I know.
really
Like,
good.
I only do the cricket, which is obviously a different tempo. But like I know he's a good commentator. I just don't really listen to the SEN live that much.
He's really good with the old theater of the mind stuff
Yeah.
with
That's why he's great on
with radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I would
Interesting
love Triple M, BT, and JB. Like,
Yeah.
what you get on Channel 7 is not comparable at all.
Oh right, as they are on Triple M. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like
if I could get them
don't mind it.
doing just whatever their loose kind of footy stuff.
That's the
on-
reason everyone loved them. It's probably the reason.
Yeah, and like that.
Yeah,
you do
they're
obviously
split
have-
up this year. So now I think Brayshaw's doing a different line to
Are they?
BT.
Surely not.
Yeah. No, I think they are. Yeah.
Fox have Matt Hill now as well, don't they?
Yeah. But Fox have Saturday nights and
They have
every
Saturday.
game as well.
They just have Saturday.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
they'll take over.
So I can't remember what the broadcast
they backed
deal
it.
is now. Is this
just
the
like-
start of a new deal or is this just
yeah.
now
well,
to
technically-
2031, I think it is.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Fox have their own
That's this year,
commentators for every game now anyway, so you don't have to listen to BT at all.
Yeah.
Now that when you're on KO.
yeah, which sucks for people that don't have KO or can't afford KO or Fox or whatever. But I mean, just make Channel 7 better and we wouldn't have this problem. I feel
I don't like. I'm never that big on the commentators. Like unless there's there can be some bad games and it'll drive me a little insane. But like I'm not like BT's this game. Like it's all right.
But if there's a big moment, do you ever watch like the compilations of like the multi-call?
It can-
the quad
and then you
call.
see how
Yeah,
much
there can
better
be. There
every
can
other
be.
call is than Channel 7's call.
That's but that's why I like Triple M.
Yeah.
Like that's why I like them because they just go off the rocket.
But you don't get mad at the game if the commentators are
No, not really. Like not really.
bad? Show some emotion, Mitch.
No, like I'm just like it's like it's not. I just don't think it's like that big of a deal. Like if BT keeps going on about something that's
Yeah.
just like I don't need to listen to, then that'll annoy me.
Yeah.
JB says first blood again for someone who kicks a goal in the opening game or quarter.
I was going to bring that
I'll
up
be
as well.
strictly Fox and KO.
Right?
So
Tell you what I'm looking forward to: Corbin Middlemiss. He'll be good.
Yeah.
he'll be really good.
Who's that? Sorry?
Corbin Middlemiss. Middlemiss?
that a commentator?
Sorry.
A
Yeah. So he was at ABC. I think he did a little bit of Big Bash stuff the year or the year before.
Yeah.
All right.
But he did at least one or two preseason games. Probably was just one because I know they had some weird guests on the first weeks for the match sims. He was
Right.
good. Yeah, I can't remember what game it was, but he was good. So I think he'll be a quick favourite on top of what Matt Hill. A lot of people like
Yeah.
Matt Hill.
Although Matt Hill's very racehorsey.
Yeah, like
which is
the first time
some people like.
first time I listened to him, I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
But I think Fox did well to poach him because I think he was at 7 first, wasn't he? So
Yeah, I think he had a stint
yeah.
there.
yeah.
No, I'm excited for Hitout. Like Hitout is pinnacle,
Yeah, I'm
and
happy.
then paired up with Jared.
Yeah,
I
that
think
should
is
be a
incredible.
nice balance.
Yeah.
between
Because Jared gets excited in the way that like Bruce McAvaney used to, but
yeah.
not as weird. I feel like.
Oh,
Like I said, I haven't really listened to Jerry that much, but I know that I think I know the vibe you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sirioli stuff. Anyway, so that is the show for this week. Handiest point goes to Callum Farquhar because he's the only one that made us say handy point throughout the entire podcast.
What was it?
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's all right. Well,
It was
actually,
early on, wasn't it?
just they can let the watchers.
Oh yeah, okay.
Chuck
If
it in
you
the comments.
all right, chuck it in the comments. Whoever you think made the handiest point.
If you got to this far and weren't
if you
sick
got
of
this
Phoenix's
far.
takes, we promise they won't all be that bad. No promises.
No promises. They're just going to get worse. Okay, so what are we plugging for Hangout?
We did tips. Obviously, you can get your tips done after the round starts. You just be a little bit behind, but I guess that's why the points model works quite well because you can catch up quite quickly if you're good enough. So get your tips in before Friday night now. Season guides out, free download, 140 plus pages, a lot of effort, profiles. There's more than that, but there's heaps.
Fixtures, stats.
The fixture's wrong now because
Oh,
they've
true.
changed it, but that's all right. Just circle the changes.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
What changes we need to make.
Now that the fixture's just been having to be flipped because of the cyclone. And then zerohanger.com.
Yep.
And craft a draft.
Always.
If you're keen on draft stuff this year, our draft coverage is going to go up even further. We'll have plenty of coming, obviously later in the year when it gets really busy, but even now, plenty of preview content coming through Craft the Draft, which is only for 2025.
There's already some pretty good stuff
Yeah.
on the channel. So thank you, Aidan, Callum, Mitch. Subscribe, do all the stuff that Mitch said, and we'll catch you next week.